Welcome to As the Story Grows. I'm Brian Patton. Today, Jeremy Schaeffer, frontman for Earth Groans, joins the podcast. Earth Groans dropped their latest EP, Tongue-Tied, on March 3rd via Solid State Records. Jeremy talks about life in South Dakota, discovering heavy music, why the band has only released EPs, the lyrical themes on Tongue-Tied, his mustache, and more. It was great getting to spend some time with Jeremy, and I hope you guys enjoyed today's chat.
I feel that I'm still waiting for it to, in the winters, I really fall out of shape bad because there's no way to work out for me here if the weather is bad. So, and there's not a gym. I live in a kind of a small town outside of Sioux Falls. So the closest gym is like 30 minutes from me. And I just can't bring myself to like pay for a gym membership that I know I won't use because it's 30 minutes away and there's no way I can drive 30 minutes a day and then back home. So anyways, what I'm trying to say is that I really fall out of shape bad over the winter because they just don't work out because it's just not nice enough out. So,
but thankfully it's been a mild winter here. So,
well, I'm jealous. We got freaking slammed. We hit, I guess we hit some crazy, since the 1900s record snowfall this year, and like it's still supposed to snow a bunch more this month. So we're gonna like well exceed that record from the 1900s. So wild.
I don't know that I need that much snow, but I would like a little bit this year. I think probably gone.
I could send you a foot and we'd still have plenty.
That'd be great. Well, it's great to hang out with you. I think when I talked to Austin from The Undertaking, he was like, "You should have Jeremy on the podcast." And I was like, "Yeah, I'd love to." And so I'm glad it finally worked out. So 2 years later, so it's rad. So you were still in South Dakota. That's where you grew up, right?
Yeah, born and raised. And every winter that rolls around, I'm like, I'm gonna move, and then here I am, 34 years later, and I still haven't moved. So it's still I will move. I just have to figure out where, how, and pretty much everything. I really have to figure out everything. But I do want to move someday. I don't want to blindly move somewhere because I have a recording studio here. Yeah. And I own the building that I live in and stuff. So there is a lot to give up if I move. I don't know where I would go. I have to have a reason to move someplace, I guess, before I'm just gonna up and go, because I'd be giving up a lot to just blindly move someplace just because I wanted to move away from South Dakota. So someday, somehow, though.
I feel like in talking to musicians, it's like, because you tour and see so much of the world, it's nice to have some place that is home and familiar when you're back, right? Like, yeah,
actually, that's a real thing. Because when I grew up, I've always hated like small town. I'm all about like the big city life and stuff. But going out on tour and like never having a place to park and like having to pay for parking and like having to pay tolls and have to worry about crime, all that stuff. It is nice to come home to like a really quiet, like I live in a town of like 1,000 people, and it's like it's quiet. You don't have to worry about parking. You don't have to worry about crime, all these things. So it is really refreshing to come home from like the hustle and bustle of tour to like a really like slow moving pace, atmosphere and a quiet and crimeless community. So that there is something to be said about that. I will say that.
Yeah, for sure. What was growing up like?
Growing up, oh man. I mean, I'm the black sheep of my family, hardcore. So that's always a good time when you're the only one in your family with like tattoos and piercings and stuff. And I'm the only one that wanted to pursue like music as like a living.
Yeah.
And my family were not really that stoked about that, and like my parents were like, they were totally like, okay, well, he'll grow out of this phase at some point, and then he'll get a real job, and it'll be fine. But sorry, mom and dad, I'm still stuck in a phase here.
Yeah.
So, but
It's not a phase,
yeah,
it's a lifestyle.
dude, I mean, yeah, for me it is, and I think they finally, like, they kind of understand it now that I'm a little bit older and like I have my own recording studio. And actually, this is the weirdest thing to me. This is when it, like, for them it worked. Like, it's like it kind of, I guess, finally sunk in for them, is when we, like, 4 years ago or something, we got asked to play no, not Christmas Burns Red, that was this year. What is it? It's Christmas Rock Night in Germany.
No, nice. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and like, I went, we had like I don't know, my mom's birthday or something. I was like, hey, just so you know, I'm going to be going over to Germany and playing this festival. And they were so impressed. They could not believe it. And all of a sudden they're like, oh, wow. So this music thing is really working out, huh? I'm like, I've been doing this a really long time, Mom. And it's always like, I mean, as much as metalcore can really work out, as far as paying bills and stuff. But like, yeah, I've already been doing this for a long time and for real, So anyways, that was one of the moments that it clicked for them. It was like, oh, okay, this is actually for real for him. So, which is just really, really funny, but
yeah,
whatever.
Right.
I mean, at least something like is cool.
Yeah. What got you into music?
I've always, like, I swear I came out the womb like wanting to be like playing music. I've just always knew that I wanted to play music.
Mm-hmm.
Even like ever since I was young, like it's kind of weird. My parents made us all take piano lessons. But they at the same time also didn't love the idea of like music as a career. But anyways, it's really kind of like hypercritical. But I know there's something about like playing music when you're young, it helps development and stuff like that. Anyway, so my mom was like, you're going to take piano lessons. And I was like, I want to play drums. She's like, well, first you have to take piano lessons. I was like, no, how about we just use that money that we're going to use for piano lessons and then just buy me a drum set. Anyway, so they're like, okay, you play 3 years of piano, and then you can buy a drum set with your own money. So so I don't remember how old I was when I started piano. Probably first grade. How old are you in first grade? 7. That'd probably check out because I bought my first drum set when I was 11. So I guess like even before first grade, I knew that I wanted to do music. That was just always something that was a passion of mine. So anyways, and then so at 11, I bought my first drum set. Started playing drums for a number of years. Started a band with my brother and a couple friends, and we were awful, as everyone's first band usually is. We played like Green Day covers and Metallica and stuff like that, and then that over time that kind of morphed into like an original band, and we were still awful, but in the band I was doing vocals and I was playing drums. So if you can imagine the lead singer as the drummer on how that works. I mean, occasionally it can work. Like if you look at Underoath, they did they did that thing. But Aaron could actually sing, and I couldn't. So that was the trade-off was, that I really was a terrible singer, but I tried to do it anyways, and I learned how to scream around that time frame too, and then we became a metal band, and So and then through all that, I started playing guitar and bass and doing vocals and stuff like that. And then when I went to college, I was like 20. That's when I was like, I want to be the front man of this band because I think I'm a better front man than I am a drummer. So then since then I've just been doing pretty much vocals in bands. So
Nice. Was picking up like guitar and bass a necessity of like growing up in a small town and just like wanting to like play music and just being like, well, if nobody else is here, then I need to.
it was just a part of like helping my band at the time write music. Because just I was, I guess, naturally gifted when it came to just music, and I just loved all things music. So, which I honestly, to me, like I enjoy playing all the instruments.
Yeah.
So I think vocals is what I'm best at. So that's what I actually do, quote unquote, professionally. But I love playing all the instruments. So even piano still, I still like to play piano. So that was just part of like us sitting in writing sessions and getting stuck in parts. I'm like, I get this idea. I mean, we're playing power chords, so how hard could it be, you know? And I already had rhythm. So it was just part of, I guess, like the writing process. I'm like, yeah, I think I could help with this. And then so I started playing a little more guitar, you know, on the side, and you know, really fell in love with playing guitar also.
Yeah.
So yeah.
When you were in high school, you're from a small town. Were you like going up to Sioux Falls for like shows and being a part of the scene up there? I know like Nodes of NBA was from up there, and like, was there something happening that you were like diving into?
Yeah, definitely. Nodes was like, they were a huge inspiration to me growing up, you know, being from small town South Dakota, and like the fact that there was a metal band that I found out about Nodes. I was listening to Nodes before I even knew that they were from Sioux Falls. That was the crazy thing. And then when I found that out, I was like, oh my gosh, like why? Like, you know, this was also, you know, I was very young. I was probably maybe 12, 13. But I was going to, there was a festival in Sioux Falls that would happen every year. It was a free festival called Lifelight Fest. And it was a free festival, and they had this tiny little HM stage, or the heavy metal stage, which I would always hang out at. So that was always, you know, and that's when I found out that, you know, Nodes was actually from Sioux Falls. And, but yeah, that was a huge thing for me to have like a local band that I really enjoyed and looked up to, them be, you know, a local band to me. So that was huge. There's also, a festival in Wilmer, Minnesota called Sunshine Fest that I would go to every single year. And same thing, there was, you know, an HM stage, and I would hang out over at the HM stage and watch all these bands and that I really admired, you know, and that was mainly solid state bands and face down bands. So that's, you know, where I got a lot of my inspiration as a young wannabe metalhead. And musician. Was watching these bands. You know, I saw like, I would see the Chariot and like Norma Jean and Haste Today and the Agony Scene, all these bands play these festivals, and I just knew I always thought like, you know, that's what I want to be someday. I want to be playing up here on one of these stages. So
nice. What'd you go to college for?
I did go to college for audio. Nice. Recording studio stuff. It included in that there was like some live sound and stuff, and there's some video editing and stuff like that, which I'm really thankful for, because honestly, I've really utilized pretty much all of that, having my own band.
Yeah.
You know, if you're gonna start a band, you have to be able to make your own tour flyer. You got to have some Photoshops, you know, tour flyers and merch mock-ups, and edit together, you know, video stuff of, you know, whatever that you want to like. Right now, TikTok is huge, and Reels is huge on Instagram. So I use like Premiere, like video editing stuff to like make all the like show announcements and stuff like that. And like I do vocal covers now, and like even just my own band's covers, like just like to help with like media and stuff like that. So it's all been helpful, I guess.
Yeah.
So I'm grateful that I actually went to college for something that, you know, I wanted to do and I'm utilizing in my life. but at the same time, like audio, like studio stuff is one of those things where you don't necessarily have to go to college for it, and whether it was worth the price tag. I mean, I went to like this cheap college in Norfolk, Nebraska, and so it wasn't super expensive. But if I would have went to like McNally or Full Sail or something like that, I would probably have a little different opinion on college.
Yeah.
But the fact that my college was the college I went to was really cheap, I think was probably worth it just for the sake of like learning the math and physics of like audio, and because technique is one of those things like it's really hard to teach someone how to make a metal record. It's like this is how you record a hardcore band. Like no, this is how what they can teach is like, if you place a microphone here and another microphone over here, the phase of these two microphones will not be the same, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So they teach you kind of like the nerdy stuff, the nerdy stuff, and then the rest you just have to like figure out on your own. So
yeah. By the time I also went to school for audio engineering.
Oh, okay.
So by the time you went to school, were they focused on like digital recording, or were you doing a lot of analog stuff? Like what year was that?
Luckily, they had just taken analog out of the curriculum.
Oh man,
or
lucky
tape,
you.
I should say. Yeah. So I'm really grateful that they weren't trying to teach us how to like cut tape and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because as cool as tape is, obviously, like the time that we live in, like only like maybe like 0.1% of people are actually ever doing anything with tape anymore. I mean, yeah, we have tape emulation and tape saturation plugins, which we use quite frequently, but nobody's actually recording the tape.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's 2002 that I went, and it's like by the time I graduated, like all the big studios shut down and Pro Tools was everywhere, and it was like, well, great.
Yeah, so you kind of got screwed on that. I was in college in 2008.
Nice.
Or 2008 and 2009. So, we were on Pro Tools 7. 7.4 was when they announced the elastic audio, which actually like totally changed the game for a lot of audio engineers.
Yeah, I think the 002 was new when I started.
Yep.
Way back in the day.
Yeah, I had bought the 002 when I was a junior in high school because I started recording my band and my friend's band when I was a junior in high school. That's when I got really obsessed with it.
How did Earth Groans get started?
So after I had gone full time in my studio back in, what year was that? I don't even remember anymore. That would have been like 10 years ago. Probably, 2013, 2014. I went full time doing studio stuff. The last band that I was in had broken up, and once again, I was kind of the last man standing, which was kind of always the situation that I would find myself in when I started a band. I'd be kind of like the last one, like, hey, I still want to do this, but nobody else wants to, or life is happening for other people. So anyway, so I went full-time doing studio stuff, and I still wanted to do music somehow, but I'm like, well, for right now, I'm just going to focus on doing my studio full-time, and then maybe somewhere along the line, I'll be able to join a band. Well, a couple years went by, 2-3 years went by, and no bands were ever starting around here, or looking for vocalists. And so I had this like itch, I was like, I need to be playing music. I need to be writing music or something. So obviously producing music was amazing, but I still had that other side of myself, that the other side of the, spectrum, where like, I want to be also, writing and performing.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, I'll just, maybe I'll just at least write an EP by myself, just something I've always wanted to do, like this metallic kind of hardcore, metalcore, whatever you want to call our style. And so that's what I did. I just started writing our first EP. Once I had gotten it done, I was like, well, that's it. I'll just kind of put it out and whatever. But then I was like, actually, it'd be sick to try and find members and tour with this. And that was the thing, was I was just like, well, I'm just going to put this out and not do anything with it. But then I was like, you know what? Actually, never mind. I do want to try and pursue this. So I kind of, started like looking around for people that, that I admired, that I knew could play and that wanted to tour, and everything just started falling into place. And I mean, since I was recording bands a lot at that time, I had a lot of people around the area that, I'm not, one member here, one member there from these bands I was recording that weren't actually touring, but were just playing locally. And so I started reaching out to a few of them and like, hey, got this band that I'm starting. Would you be interested in playing? And that's kind of just how it started. And like, I was like, all right, if I'm going to do this band, I started this band when I was 26. I was like, if I'm going to do Earth Groans for real, I'm going to do it for real. Like, that's what kind of guy I guess I am, is, if we're going to tour, we're going to freaking tour. So like our first show that we played as Earth Groans was our first tour date on our first tour. And we just hit the ground running, just DIY booking everything. I had, like, in all the other bands I had been in, I had always booked our own tours and stuff. And so we just we road dogged it for a couple years, and then Solid State picked us up. So
nice. Where'd the name come from?
Earth Groans, it's a biblical reference. I'm really bad at numbers, remembering numbers. It's like Romans 8:20, or I think, or something. But
Wikipedia says Romans 8:23.
Yeah, that'd be it then. I just can't ever remember numbers, so it's like I can't even remember like my own mom's birthday. I remember the month, but I don't remember what the number is. Yeah. Which actually, what's the date? I think I might have missed it. Frick.
The 20th?
Yeah, I probably did, because I think it was the 5th or the 15th.
Sorry, Mom.
Sorry, Mom. Anyways, so going back to the name, it comes from Romans 8:23, I guess. And there's two sections of this verse, and I find both of them equally kind of cool. But when I was kind of coming up with the name, I was trying to think of, what's a name that encapsulates, the like chaos and like, anxiety, stuff like that. And I came up with this. I was thinking of natural disaster style stuff, and that's when I was like, came across this verse, Romans 8:23. It talked about like the earth is groaning like a mother in labor, and referring to natural disasters, earthquakes, stuff like that. And what's cool about this verse is it's not. The first half is, the earth is groaning like a mother in labor. But then the second half of that verse, it says, not only does the earth groan, but each one of us within ourselves, our spirit groans for the return of Christ, or the adoption of sonship, whatever translation you're reading. I just thought that was really cool, because it's like we all have like this yearning, for like whatever life is after, or that fulfillment for perfection. Just thought that was a really, really cool concept, because it kind of like, it kind of like relates to our sound, but not only our sound, but each one of us, So.
Yeah, that's right. How'd you guys get connected with Solid State?
So that was an interesting thing. We used to joke around in the van on tour, when we signed to Solid State, we'll be playing this big show when we signed to Solid State, we would always joke like that it wasn't actually a reality. And then we had tried to get on to Face Down, and Face Down wasn't biting. So, and I only thought, Face Down was realistic because I had a couple of friends that worked there. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, yeah, if there is a label that we'd be able to get on, that would probably be it. Face Down's like a Christian hardcore, smaller label, and Solid State was quite a bit bigger, so I just didn't think that was realistic. But before we went out on one of our tours, I had sent them like a press pack, like a solid or physical press pack I had built. And I didn't actually think that we would get signed off of it, but I had sent it to them to kind of plant a bug, I guess, so that, because we were just about to start writing for our second EP. And so I sent it to them in hopes that, maybe further down the road, they would be interested in this or something like that. But so then the day they got the press pack, they sent me an email and said, hey, we've actually been watching you guys for a while already. Let's hop on a phone call later this week.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so it was kind of like both of the things together, the press pack and like, I guess, just us touring. I think that was probably the real thing for them was they had seen us working really hard and touring a lot, because especially back in those days, every band that was on Solid State was like, we'd call them road dogs. There were bands that were constantly touring. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Were those like, because Face Down and Solid State bands had such an impact on you, were those like the only two labels you ever considered, or?
No, those were just the two that I thought. Well, I didn't even think, like I said, I didn't even think Solid State was a realistic option. Face Down was the realistic option just because I had friends there, and then, but I also had reached out to. I'm trying to remember who else I had sent stuff out to. I think I had sent something to Equal Vision, something to Pure Noise. But those were just like demo submissions online. I didn't actually send press pack to any of those. But.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm. When you signed to Solid State, I mean, so far in Earth Groan's catalog, it's all EPs. Mm-hmm. Was that something you had to work out with the label, or was it just like, hey, I have my own studio, you're not going to be spending a bunch of money to put us in a studio, so we can just like deliver these short packages? Or
yeah. I mean, when I started Earth Groans, that was a big thing that I wanted to do. Was I wanted to be an EP band. I wanted to be able to put out music like, quite often, like every year. And so that was one of my pitches when we, in our first phone call, Solid State, they're like, well, what do you want to do as a band? I was like, well, I have this idea. I feel like I see the industry going this direction. As everything's switching over to streaming, I think it's going to be more important to have content out continuously than it is just about having, a large music catalog. And so I told them, part of what I wanted to do with our deal is like, I think it'd be cool if we released like an EP every year or something, to the likes of that. And they were all about it. So that's just been something that we've done. And they gave us the option. They said, okay, well, we'll set up a deal for you then, where your deal can either be 3 full lengths or 6 EPs, however you want to mix and match that. And so we did 4 EPs, and then I was actually planning on wrapping it up with the full length. But then COVID hit and made everything kind of, a disaster. But I didn't want to put out a full length over COVID. So I was like, well, we'll just put out another EP this year then. And so that's what we ended up doing. We just ended up doing all EPs. And so this last EP that we just dropped, Tongue Tied, that concludes our deal with Solid State.
Boo.
So, yeah. So I don't know. We'll see what happens next. If we're gonna resign, or if they even offer the option, or if we'll try something else, or I don't know. But it was cool to do those 6 EPs with them. So we'll see what happens next.
When you started the band, what were the things that like were influencing you sonically or that you wanted to try to capture musically? Because I know what your music reminds me of, but I'm curious what was driving you.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I wanted it to be, and with the first few EPs, I kind of was figuring out what worked and what didn't work. But I wanted it to be kind of like chaotic and off time. I wanted to pull a lot of influence from the early 2000s metalcore, the stuff that I grew up listening to, like Norma Jean and Chariot, you know, uh, so bands like that. But then I wanted to add like on top of that, I wanted to add like kind of a modern heavy sound, Impending Doom, Acacia Strain kind of vibe that would modernize our sound a little bit more.
How did COVID affect you guys? Yeah, outside of scrapping a full length, like how did it hit you guys? I know you
Yeah,
had member changes here, right?
yeah, that was part of it. We put out. Well, it's tough because we put out The Prettiest of Things, and then like literally the following week, I think, is when COVID hit, because we put it out in March of 20, I guess, and that's when middle of March is when I think COVID kind of shut everything down. Yeah. So we ended up scrapping a couple tours, which was really hard. I went crazy because I had no job anymore. That was really hard, having pretty much both, like, because the only thing I really do with my life is work in a studio and then tour. Yeah. So I literally didn't have a job or a hobby anymore. It felt like, so it was really hard to find inspiration, like to write, because I was just starting to write the next EP. And once all that happened, I was like, well, I have no motivation to write because I have no will to live. Yeah. It was very hard on me mentally, my mental health. I just like I just really didn't have a whole lot of ambition to like write or inspiration. And I'm one of those writers that like I have to be inspired, especially when it comes to lyrics. I really have to be inspired to be able to like, write. Yeah. So that was hard to really find inspiration for writing and stuff like that. But I don't know. And obviously it's hard to keep a buzz going when you can't continually be in front of people. We put out Waste over COVID. So at least we had the following EP come out, and that EP did pretty well, surprisingly. And I think maybe that was just because nobody else was really putting out records, so we caught the eye of more people. So that maybe worked out in our favor, the fact that we were able to keep writing and releasing music. So that was, I guess, maybe beneficial. But yeah, I mean, really just taking off. I mean, we had to take off like 2 years of touring. And then even when touring did come back, it didn't really fully come back for, I mean, we're coming up on the touring season of 2023, or I guess we're in it right now. But even I feel like this is the first season where touring is back full 100%, whereas there's no restrictions and stuff like that. And everyone's trying to tour now. So.
Yeah. It seemed like when touring came back, it was like, because everybody wanted to tour, it was like smaller bands kind of got pushed out, and it was like, we just got to wait our turn because all the venues are booked with everybody bigger than us.
Yeah, that's a real thing. That's something that we're seeing for this year, is that we're trying to, like, right now we just got back from tour, but we're working on a tour for May, and our agent's having a hard time, finalizing a few dates because all these bands are touring now. Like, everybody's touring. So, we're definitely kind of on the back burner as far as priority for a lot of these venues. So it's like, it doesn't matter what's going on. It's like, we're still being affected by COVID in a way, because touring got set aside for so many years, all these bands are trying to make up for years lost. So I don't know. I guess we're technically still being affected by COVID because of that.
Yeah, it's like last year. Last year was nuts because I mean, everybody released their records they've been sitting on.
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
as a fan, it was like 2022 was just a fire hose of music, and you're just like,
Yeah.
I'll take it. But yeah, I imagine as a band, you're just like, there's too much.
It is. Yeah. I mean, and like, since everyone is touring, we're going to be hitting these A markets. Like, imagine playing Seattle in May. There's going to be every day in Seattle, there's probably going to be a different tour coming through, So people can't afford to go out to a show every night of the week.
Right.
So they're going to pick, one show a week that they're going to go out to. So they're, if our tour falls in the same week as like Silent Planet or Fit for a King, who do you think they're going to go to? They're probably going to go see, unless, for some reason they'd already seen one of those bands or whatever. It's just a lot to compete with, is what I'm saying. So, it's going to be harder for smaller bands like us to get people out to our shows because there is so much other competition happening this year.
Yeah.
So.
The new EP is called Tongue Tied. You just released. Where'd the title come from?
Yeah, so I was actually born tongue-tied. And I know it's a common expression, the term tongue-tied, but so tongue-tied just means, it's a medical term where that skin underneath your tongue, it comes all the way up to the tip of your tongue.
Yeah.
And you're not able to move your tongue freely. And so if not corrected at birth or near after, you would basically like develop an incredible, speech impediment. So I was born tongue-tied, and the doctor did perform the procedure right away. So he cut all that out, and it's really kind of a barbaric procedure. They just take a scissors, no numbing or anything.
Yeah. Both my kids had tongue tied, and
really,
my daughter, she literally just like the scissors in there, and you're just like, oh no, this is terrible.
Yeah. Yep, that's crazy. That's crazy. So you're actually one of the first persons that I know that actually knew what that mean. What that meant.
Yeah.
Yeah. So crazy. But yeah, so I was born tongue-tied, and that was kind of a common theme for me in my life. I guess I feel like, like I said, I was the black sheep, and not only in my family, but like in school and stuff like that. So I wasn't able to really connect with people super well. Until I started playing music, and that was kind of a way, I guess, for me to actually speak, what was on my heart, and my way of communicating. My voice, in a sense, was through music. I found my voice, so that's where the name Tongue Tied comes from.
Gotcha. How does the artwork work with the record?
I don't think it really does. We're just like, yeah. I went to the guy with like kind of a concept. I was like, hey, what if we try to do something like this? And it was pretty gnarly. And he's like, or what if we did this and just did like a throwback to like early 2000s type of art. And I was like, I write music and, produce music. So I trust you when it comes to art. So that's what we ended up doing. So yeah, I guess there really isn't any kind of tie from the art to the music itself, but I do think that it's cool. If you look at the art, there is kind of like almost like a heart-shaped hole in the wall, and it almost looks like it's bleeding, which I think is just kind of a cool. I don't know if he meant to do that or if that just kind of happened, but I think that's kind of a cool, maybe metaphor for the music. The EP does have like a darker side to it, so I think that it ends up being kind of cool.
Yeah. I meant to ask earlier, did Dave Quiggle do the art on Rahab?
No, actually, no. Jim Hughes.
Okay.
So Jim Hughes is from Sioux Falls. He's been a good friend of mine since we were young playing music. He was one of the only other people that around here that really started playing music young, and my first band and his first band would play these terrible tiny local shows together. And and then he ended up going on to playing Colossus, and then from Colossus they were on Facedown, and then from Colossus he played for Today, and then now he just does art full time.
Nice.
And he's a really good artist. But yeah, he definitely so let me go back on that really quick. On that Rahab, I had a tattoo artist, draw it and paint it. And then he sent the scan of that art to Jim, and then Jim digitized it and changed the colors a little bit and made it look a little more like a Quiggle piece of art, because he wanted it to look, that it would fit in along the lines of the other like Facedown solid state type bands. So yeah.
It definitely has that vibe where Quiggle's done. It definitely is classic.
You're not the first person to bring that up, because a lot of people mistakenly thought that was Quiggle.
Yeah. Are there any lyrical themes you hit on this record? I know you talked about how COVID, it was hard to get like motivated and find the creativity.
Yeah. So I did talk about the tongue-tied thing, just like struggling to find my voice throughout my life and tell music. So that was one thing. I tried to use the tongue-tied theme, in a couple songs. One of them is a song about using your voice for good. That's Discordant Symphony. It just talks about each one of us on this planet. We all have a voice, and when we use it for good, we become this symphony. And whether it is perfect or not, we are imperfect people, but with a perfect voice. So it creates this symphony. So yeah, that song is just about using your voice for good, and how much power there is in your voice. Let's see. One other one that I kind of ties in with having a voice is Same Blood. That song is all just about racism and stuff. And like a different kind of voice there, like people standing up for a cause, and using their voice, and maybe me using my platform to be a voice for the people that have, been affected by racism and stuff. Okay. Let's see. Overgrown is. Let me come back to Overgrown. And then Over the Edge is a song just about, finding yourself in a place where you, like for me, music is a really hard industry to be a part of, and it's a really hard industry to be successful in. And, it's really easy to get caught up in the rat race of things that you can kind of forget about the reason why you do what you're doing and why you're using your voice. And that song is literally just about, this world is hard. Yeah, this industry is hard, but I still want to use my voice for good. I still want to use my passion. I still want to perform music and play music for the reason that I started playing music. And there's a line in that song. It's I won't let this passion turn to poison. And that's just the whole point about that is, behind that is just the fact that I want to continue to use the music, this God-given gift, to, for good, and not let it, overcome me to the point where, or overtake me to the point where I'm like, okay, this is about making money now, or, something like that. So abusing, I guess, the passion,
Yeah.
And then Overgrown is just, that song it's kind of a song of frustration, or finding yourself in a place in life where you do feel like you have overgrown, like whether it be like the community that you're a part of, or just, the place where you're at in life, you feel like you're pressing against all edges, and you feel like kind of claustrophobic and cagey because of, you feel like there's something new coming, but you don't know what it is yet. And just being stuck in that place. The original writing was we find out at the end of the song that you break through these walls, and then you find out that that cage that you were in that whole time was really just an egg, and you're being birthed into this new environment, and this, so I feel like there are times in our life where we get to a point where we feel really uncomfortable, but it's really just a holding place for you to be birthed into the next section of your life. And that really what it was is just a holding place until you were mature and ready for that next thing in your life. So
nice. Musically, it seems like you guys really up the panic chords and the chug wee on this EP.
Yeah, I mean, that's always just kind of been a thing that we've done. Our last EP, The Body, I did a lot less of that and just went a little more just like straight hardcore route. Yeah, it's just, every record I do, I try and do something a little bit different. And, even though that there's still like some sonic elements that are all the same, just heavy and chaotic, there are different things that I like to try and pursue in directions that, I like to push for.
Yeah. What led you to start doing the vocal covers? Was that just born out of like COVID and needing to create content, or boredom?
Yeah. Honestly, actually, I wish I would have started doing the vocal covers earlier during COVID. I kind of did it toward the end of COVID. But I kept telling myself I need to do these, or I should do these to help, push content and keep myself, performing, because it's really easy to, if you're not constantly performing and stuff, there's a saying that if you don't use it, you lose it. Yeah. And in between tours, it's like, how many times can I really just run through our songs? It gets boring in a sense. It's not a ton of fun just to stand in a room and like scream along to your songs. If you're not performing with other people on a stage, whatever, it isn't a ton of fun just to scream along to your songs. So I'm like, I want to continually be using my vocal cords so that, to become a better vocalist, and it helps, like, when you're performing other people's music, you learn different techniques and different cadence styles and stuff like that. So anyways, I just started doing it just to do it, and I hit it just at the right time. And Instagram was competing really hard with TikTok, and I really just hit the algorithm right, and they just like boosted me hard.
Nice.
Yeah, so it's been cool, and I've been continually doing it because it's there's a lot of people that come to our shows now. They're like, oh yeah, I found out about your band because of TikTok, because of your covers on Instagram, whatever. And then occasionally I will run into somebody at a show and they're like, oh yeah, you're the guy from TikTok. Like, oh, are you from here? Or I'm like, oh no, my band's playing tonight. It's like, oh, what band are you? So definitely my following, it's interesting because my following on TikTok is bigger because of my covers than it is from the band.
No, man.
So that's kind of a weird pill to swallow, but there is definitely some conversion there. So I'll take what I can get, so.
You mentioned you guys are going on tour. What's the rest of this year look like for your Earth Groans?
Yeah. So we're going to be touring as much as we can, I guess. We got a couple festivals in the summer we'll be playing. Really just working hard on getting tours set up. I don't know much more other than May. We have a tour set up for May that's not announced yet, but that will be a West Coast tour. I don't want to give too much away yet just because we're going to announce some cool things with that. But we have a tour coming up in May. And then besides that, really just like trying to play as much as we can, tour as much as we can. We got some new merch that we're going to be dropping, vinyl that we're going to be printing. And then besides that, really just trying to tour as much as possible. So
Boss. And then maybe the most important question, what led to the handlebar mustache that you are so known for?
Yeah. So it is kind of a funny story. We early Earth Groans days, we would tour and people wouldn't shave because that was fun. Yeah. It was cool. But my bandmates were like, hey, you should grow a mustache for this tour. And I was, I kind of fought back, and I was like, no, I don't want to be like I want to be taken seriously on stage. I don't want people to think I'm a pedo, you know, stuff like that. So anyways, they finally convinced me to do it. And then, you know, I grew it out, and for whatever reason, I have really good mustache genes.
Yeah.
My dad also has a pretty big mustache and stuff. And when I got home from tour, you know, a lot of people were like, dude, you actually look really good with a mustache. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, I mean, that's sick. But if I'm going to grow a mustache, I'm going to grow a mustache.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm like, full send. So, and then that's just been like, it's become like just part of, you know, my thing. And a ton of people know, you know, it's a branding thing. I mean, a ton of people know about our band is is that the vocalist with the mustache. So, I mean, it works. I mean, same reason why people wear masks and or paint or whatever, you know, it's like finding a stitch or a stick. What do they call it? Stick. That's it. You know, or just like branding something that is memorable that people can remember who you are and what you look like, whatever. Sure. So that's kind of our thing now. And so I'm like, well, I'm here for it because it's fun and it's cool. So.
Thanks for listening to As the Story Grows. Our intro music was written and composed by Jeremy Hunt. The As the Story Grows theme is by Bob Nana. If you like what you hear, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and give us a rating and review. If you'd like to support the show financially, you can join us at patreon.com/asthestorygrows. Be a part of our community and join the ongoing conversation over on Discord. If you enjoy this episode, share it on social media with your friends. Much appreciated, and thanks for listening.